University Council, the Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellors, members of Council, Senate, Congregation and Convocation, Your Grace. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to be present at this Convocation lecture at Ekiti State University. When I was contacted by the university and told that there would be a virtual convocation ceremony this year, and I saw the program, I said to the registrar, is Femi Falana going to come in person or deliver the lecture virtually? And he replied that he was going to be here in person. So I said I would fly into the country to be here. I also told him that when I was awarded an honorary doctorate by this university 2 years ago, in 2017, I was unable to make it. I sent Senator Shekhar to represent me, and I would like to be here in person for the installation. As a mark of appreciation for the honor that has been done to me by the state and by the university in appointing me as Chancellor. I'm sure many of you know that I cannot resist making remarks when and going through the lecture and listening to the guest lecturer, I'm sure we all have had more than what you call the food for thought. It was as expected, courageous, straight to the point, intelligent and grounded in law. In that, Femi has reminded all of us is that the clamor for restructuring Nigeria should not be allowed to be a camouflage or a veil for those who actually want to divide the country. There's a difference between restructuring and succession. There's a difference between restructuring and civil war. There's a difference between restructuring and enmity and division. And one of the most important points that we miss is that every time we talk to ourselves and talk about restructuring the country, we base our conversation on the background of a dialogue between different people, not one people. We think we are talking about different ethnicities, or it's about different religions or adherence to different religious beliefs. And we take individuals and put them into a box. You are from Kano, you are from Ekiti, you are from Anambra, and we think because you're from Kano, we know who you are. And every man from Kano is the same, every man from Ekiti is the same, every woman from Anambra is the same, and it is not true. So I'll give you an example of my life. So I'm from Kano, and that is true. And I'm a Muslim, and that is true. When I was 8 years old, my father took me from Kano and put me in a boarding Catholic school in Kaduna called St. John's. I was brought up by sisters from the convent of the Queen of the Apostles in Cork, Ireland. If you go there today, there's a Sister Catherine. If you ask her, she still remembers me. You usually remember the troublesome ones. She still remembers me. So, I grew up. Nobody tried to convert me. Of course, I probably can say the Hail Marys and the Our Fathers better than many Christians. I have retained my connection with the Catholic Church. My best friends are friends I made from those days, from the age of 8. From Kaduna, straight, I came to King's College. Then after King's College, I went to ABU in Zaria. So where am I from? After just 2 years of lecturing in ABU, I started working in the bank. Most of my life, I spent working in Lagos. I worked in Icon Merchant Bank, I worked in UBA. I never asked to be transferred to the north. On the 1 or 2 occasions I was transferred, I fought to come back because all my friends were in Lagos. Went to the central bank, became an emir. So, I'm from Kano. The person who dethroned me is from Kano. The plane that was waiting for me at the airport to bring me to Lagos when I was dethroned was arranged by a friend from Delta. When I was dethroned, the first place I thought of to go to from Kano was not Kaduna, it was not Sokoto, it was not Maiduguri. I said, allow me and my family to go to Lagos. They said I could not go. I was taken somewhere in Nasarawa. My family came on a plane to Lagos. My friends in Lagos met my family. They put them in a hotel for 1 night, spent the next day until they found apartments in Victoria Island, put them there and paid, gave them food. By the time I came back to Lagos, I stayed in those apartments for 2 months, paid for by my friends. And they arranged my house, which I had left since I left First Bank, was renovated, it was furnished. Another house was donated and furnished. My family settled down. This would have cost hundreds of millions of naira by my friends, 90% of whom are Christians from southern Nigeria. So how do you look at me and condemn me for being from Kano? Or how do you tell me that Christians are bad people or Southerners are bad people? But the question is, if my father had not taken me to a Catholic school, if my father had not insisted I should come to King's College, would I be the person I am today? And how are we bringing up our own children? You know, the country is only as good as the people. And character is formed from home, from family. I tell people a story when I was in St. Anne's. I caught malaria. I was a very tiny boy. I was around 9 years old then. I was shivering in my bed. This Irish sister, Sister Catherine, came around looking at the dormitories and she saw me. Touched my forehead, felt the temperature. She wrapped me in her arms and took me to the hospital. Children do not forget that. So what's killed this country is the narrative we're bringing our children up on. You know, if you ask my daughters, if you ask my sons, I tell them if I see them bringing friends and I don't see friends from other parts of the country, I say, where are your Yoruba friends? Where are your Igbo friends? It's casual, but then they grow up knowing that they are expected to have Yoruba and Igbo friends. And that is the only way nobody will come and deceive you and tell you Yoruba people are bad, Igbo are bad, Fulani are bad, Muslims are bad, because you have known real human beings and they are wonderful human beings. So what we have done and what we have lost as a country is we have allowed people, for their selfish reasons, to break us into compartments that are mythical. It's a myth. Ethnic and religious identity is a myth. The term identity, strictly speaking, means unique. You have an identity. Nobody else is exactly like you. You can't tell me that because I was born in a place, or because I profess a faith, or because I speak a language, then even if the person is my twin brother, we are two different identities. So until we now begin to say what values do we want as a country? Competence, integrity, justice, fairness, and these values have no ethnicity, they have no religion. Until we agree on the values that will define how we operate as a country, we will not resolve this problem. The second point I'd like to make is a point that was alluded to by Femi Falana. You know, we talk about diversity. Even our constitution talks properly, and diversity is a good thing. But what is the diversity that our constitution talks about? States of origin. The constitution goes to the extent of saying there must be a minister from every state in the federation. That is all. Whether these ministers are competent or idiots, whether they went to school or did not go to school, it doesn't matter. They can all be men in their 70s, no woman. The youth do not have to be represented. In other words, our concept of diversity is so limited. I think this is the point that Femi Falana is making. How do you have a country with more than half of the population being female, not a single female governor? How many female ministers? We have 109 seats in the Senate. How many women are in the Senate? House of Reps. Most states of the Federation, the cabinet will have a token female commissioner, and she will be commissioner for women affairs. Isn't that true? Chairman local government, and councillors are male. So think about the fundamental problems we face as a country. When you talk about things like child marriage, you talk about things like domestic violence, you talk about divorce and the rights of women, you talk about custody and maintenance of children. These are problems that are faced by women. You go to a state house of assembly that's supposed to make a law around these things. Not a single member has ever been forced into marriage. Not one has ever been divorced. Not one has ever been beaten. Because they're all men, they've been doing the beating. How do you address those fundamental problems of the family that are at the root? All these people you see on drugs or on fanaticism or extremism, it started from the family. And I think what Mr. Falana is saying is that you can't just wait for people to do it, you've got to actively pursue it. And this is my experience in life. When I was in the central bank in 2012, I said, let's declare this the year of the woman in banking. A whole lot of noise, we set up a committee, we pushed through, we negotiated. At the end, what did we agree? All the banks signed up to a document that said every time we do an employment exercise, at least 50% will be female. We will aim to have at least 40% of senior management being female. And our boards will be at least 30% female. And many of the banks have complied. Today, if you go to the stock exchange, most of the companies that have many women on the board are banks. That was because we drove that process. But take the central bank itself. The Central Bank of Nigeria was set up in 1959. I became governor of the central bank in 2009, 50 years. In the 50 years of the history of the central bank, only 4 women had risen to the rank of director. Only 4. And not at the same time, at different times, so never more than 1. In 1 year, I appointed 8 female directors. And those directors were better than all the men. So all we achieved, those women were behind it. And I deliberately took areas, there were areas, you know, when you carry a woman, you say, human resources, medical, because they're like elderly aunts, they're mothers. That is all they can do. You had areas in the central bank that could only be handled not just by men, but by very strong alpha men. I took them from the men, I gave women. I appointed the first female director of banking supervision. All the bank MDs were reporting to her. Internal audit, risk management, consumer protection, branch operations. Work that they thought women could not do. Chukumbo Martins, director of banking supervision, she ran all the bank MDs into the ground. They obeyed her. So, what are we afraid of? Why, the way our constitution says a minister from every state, why can't our constitution say that no single gender can have more than 60% of the cabinet? A law against dominance. That means at least 40% of your cabinet will be either male or female. You have diversity. Why don't you look for diversity in the youth? Why is it impossible for young people to be ministers? We've had heads of state in Nigeria in their 30s. Why is it impossible for a young man of 30-something, or to have several of them in their 30s, be ministers? And if it is not being done automatically, why can't we deliberately legislate for it and compel? Even if you are a man and become president, you must appoint women to the cabinet. Even if you're an old man, you must appoint young people, and so on. So I think the point Femi Falana made is a fundamental point that goes to our understanding of diversity and the benefits and privileges that we'll have. A third point tied to diversity is this question of federal character. And I'm on record to have made my point. I'm a very strong believer in diversity, strong believer in federal character. I have never believed that federal character should be pursued at the expense of merit and competence. And so long as we continue to do that, where it doesn't matter whether you're qualified, so long as you're from Ekiti, you tick a box. You don't have to go for the best person in Ekiti. You have to go for the best person in Kano, for the best person in Borno. So long as you tick the box that you are from that state, it is fine. We are not going to have the investments in human capital that we need as a country. When people understand that offices in this country will be shared to reflect the diversity of this country, but you must earn that office and be qualified for that office. People invest in education and the quality of their human beings. I have never found myself looking for a job and saying, please give me because I'm from Canada. I've always been ready to offer my CV and say, this is what I've done, and compete. And I challenge any Nigerian from any part of the country to bring, if your CV is better than mine, fine. If it's not, accept that I should get the job. So we need to begin to look at, I think, what His Grace referred to as putting the right people in the right place. It doesn't matter where you're from. When the country needs service, the person who is there should be somebody who must deliver in every office. I would like to make a final point. And this is